Hey guys, Russell with Two Trail Hikers. Got a Vizio TV and it got to where it was strobing. It turned off, turned it on, turned it off, turned it on, turned it off, turned it on, and eventually it would stop. Got online, started doing some research, and found a video that a guy did where he replaced the capacitors on the mother and the slave driver boards. I'll post a link to his video up here. So basically what we got to do is take the standoff, which I just did, take all the screws around the outer perimeter of the TV out, and then remove the back panel cover, which is supposed to be relatively simple. Oh. There we go. Alright. Take that off. Set it off to the side. Alright. So we made it in. Inside of the TV is the master board and the slave board. The master has two capacitors on it and the slave has two capacitors on it that are going to have to be replaced. And I looked on Amazon and got a pack of 20, and these are 35 volt capacitors that are, I'm trying to remember, 105 degrees Celsius and 400 and something, 471 millipods. Don't know, non-electrical guru. Basically I just took the numbers off of the capacitors that were on the board and went on Amazon, punched the information in, and lo and behold they came up with a package of them. Apparently this is a common problem because they sell them for Samsung TVs. They sell like a package for them. They also sell a package of them for Philips TV, but I didn't see anything that specifically said Vizio. So basically what we're going to do is take the boards out and replace the capacitors. So we'll start out by taking the 4 screws out that hold the cover plate on for the slave board. Take the cover off. Now, on this board we've got the supply cable which runs out to the display. We'll unplug it. There's a ribbon cable that has to be unplugged, and then an actual flat plug has to be unplugged, and we get our board out. And right here's the 2 capacitors that we were talking about. Right here on the back side you can see each one of them is just slightly bulged up and a little black around the back. For all intents and purposes that is supposed to be that they are defective. I tried to test them, couldn't figure it out, but everything I read online, everything I researched said this is my problem on both boards. There's actually some on this other board that I'll check while I've got the back off the TV just to ensure that they don't look damaged, because granted I've got plenty. I only needed 4, but these 20 were like $7.30 off Amazon. So it's worth a shot. I'll spend $7 and we'll give it a shot and see if we can fix a 42-inch flat screen TV. Set this off to the side. We'll take this other board off, and then we can get stuff set up and ready to solder. And this board is the master. So now that we've got the cover off of it, we got the same supply cable that runs over to the panel. We'll remove it. This one has a flat connector as well. I want to pull the wires out of the back of it. I just want to pull the connector off. There we go. And 2 ribbon cables, which actually came loose just then when I pulled it loose. They don't have locks on them like a laptop does. A laptop has little locks that push in and lock it in place. These capacitors here, this one on the lower side looks like it's got some black out of it, and this one on the top looks like it's slightly bulged. Like I said, we don't have a complete failure. We can turn the TV off and on a couple of times, and eventually it will actually get to the point where it works, and it'll work until you cut it off and turn it back on again. So with the two boards out, what we'll do is we'll get everything set up and get ready to solder, and I'll move the camera over so you can see what we're doing there. Okay, so we got the board out, and got a piece of ceramic tile here to solder on so I don't mess up our table. I've been married long enough to know, don't mess up stuff. Take the extra step to protect it, and you'll be better off in the long run. So what I've done is push these up from the bottom and popped them loose. And now I'm going to take a soldering tool and just heat the solder up that's actually holding them on. And once I get it heated up enough, I should be able to pull the pins out that are soldered to the board. Just like that. Sometimes it helps to tin the tip just a little bit. Just kind of helps things flow a little. There it goes. Alright. So now we got that one off. You see the ends were soldered on. And we'll take this other one off. And I don't have the soldering iron cranked up wide open. Because I just want to get enough heat in the top of this solder to melt it and remove the capacitor, not actually melt the circuit board itself. We don't want to damage the board because we got to reuse it. So it's just heating them up on the top there until they come off. And there's that one. And if you look in the back of it right there, you can see the black discoloration in that one, and just start to see it a little bit in that one. And they're just domed up ever so slightly. Like I said, we don't have a complete failure. It was just an intermittent problem that we were dealing with. And this is the slave panel, which really I think that our problem was in the master panel with most likely this capacitor. But we're already in here, so we're going to replace all four of them. Now the key thing to these is there's a positive and a negative side. Don't forget the positive and negative sides, because the board is labeled positive and negative. There's positive and negative. On the capacitor, the stripe is the negative side. So what we're going to do is compare these two, and I'm going to cut the leads where they're about the same length. Well, you know, actually I think what I'll do is just bend them down and then fold them out flat. Like that. And like that. So now, what I could do, making sure I got my negative, I'll space these out right, set it down in the board, take our soldering tool, tin a little solder on the end of it there. It's a little dirty from taking those others loose. We're going to clean it off. A little sponge with some damp water on it, tin that down. And then I'm going to set that right on top of the lead coming out of that capacitor so as that it melts down into it. I don't want it to heat from the bottom up. I want it to sit down nice and flat, just like that. There's our positive side soldered on. Now we're going for a negative. You know, if this works, it'll be great, because basically we'll have fixed a 42-inch flat panel TV that we can, I don't know, use, sell, store. You know, who knows. Alright, I just cut my extra leads off there. Dump those off to the side. Now, so what you can see is we've got the capacitor put on there. Let me get the screen around here where I can see. There we go. So we've got the capacitor is soldered on. It's back like it was. I don't know if this glue stuff on the side has a whole lot to do with it. I can take a hot glue gun and glue that back in place, and I think it'll be fine. But what we'll do from here is we'll put the other capacitor on and get it set up and ready to go. And probably what I'm going to have to do with it is trim it back some before I put it on, because I'm not going to be able to put it on with the lead sticking straight out. So we'll just bend these down, flatten that one, flatten that one. And down here, looks like we need to trim them back about right there. That'll work. Now we can get them in there, soldered in place, and then I can trim them back and make them set just right. So we'll touch that off again, nice and clean. Let it heat back up. Don't want to breathe that. And like I said, I don't have this thing cranked way up because I'm not looking to penetrate a tremendous amount of heat real quick. I just want to get the solder on the top melted, just enough to get that lead right down inside of it. Had a little tail sticking up there. I'm going to flatten it out. So now we'll come over to the other one and do the same thing. You know, so far, I have to say this hasn't been too bad of a repair. And as far as the soldering iron goes, I mean, I think you can pick one up pretty much about anywhere. They sell them on Amazon. I think this one came from MCM Electronics. Do a good bit of soldering and wiring and stuff as far as that goes when I worked in the automotive industry. And now I work with the fire department, and I do a lot of work as far as light installs and things of that nature, that it comes in handy. So it's definitely been well worth the money spent, but you don't have to spend, you know, $65 on a soldering iron just to do a couple of small jobs like this. The main thing of it is just to ensure that it has a small tip like this. That's kind of the key concept of it. And I don't know if you could see those capacitors before, so I'm gonna run those up in front of the camera, and maybe you can see on the ends here just how that's ever so slightly bulged up there, and that one's really discolored on the end where it's black. So that's got our slave board fixed, and it'll be ready to reinstall. Now we just have to fix our master, and once I get it soldered together, we'll stick them back together, pop the cover on the TV, and cross our fingers and hope it's fixed. Alright guys, there it is. We got it working. So what you see playing behind me is Best Shepherd's Pie video. We're streaming it from YouTube, going straight through the HDMI port on the back of the TV. It's working great. We got good sound. About knocked everything off the table. We got great sound. TV's got a clear picture. No strobing, no lines. We're happy. $8 fix. I'll link to the video that I got down in the description that actually showed me how to do it. And that way you can reference it as well as this video to fix your TV if you decide to try it. Keep in mind, I'm not an electrician. If you decide to open your TV up, that's completely you and your thing. But if you did like this video, give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more, because we're going to be coming at you with more videos.